everybody, and welcome to the West Ham Way YouTube channel. You already know who I am. Today is another edition of Writer's Block, where we go through the big talking points at West Ham for the week. And of course, it is nearly the transfer deadline. Fingers crossed we'll bring someone in. We've already brought Kufal in, but I think we need a few more reinforcements. But yeah, let's jump into it. Let's jump into the first question. So first one is, where do West Ham need to strengthen? So I've identified a few areas West Ham have looked at. Obviously, right wing back we've covered now with Kufal. I'm going to go to Geoff. Geoff, mate, where do you think we should strengthen? And if you've got any ideas about who we should bring in.
Morning, mate. How you doing? You all right?
Yeah, sweet, mate.
For having me on, mate. I think we're certainly an injury away to Ogbonna from being in serious trouble defensively. We look all to see when he's not in the side. So I certainly think we need more depth at centre back. I actually feel that we need someone with Premier League experience to step into that role, you know, especially if Ogbonna was to pick up an injury. I actually like the thought of perhaps Stones coming in, because I know Moyes has worked with him before, and I know he doesn't always shine at City, but you know, he's an experienced Premier League player. He played a lot for England and for Everton and Man City, so he hasn't become a bad defender overnight. So I think that could be a good shout for us. Same with Rudiger, similar situation. So I'd perhaps like to see one of those guys come in as a bit of depth in defence. And the same up top. Well, I mean, realistically, we've only really got one recognised striker in Haller. Antonio, yes, he's used as a striker, but I mean, I see him as a winger. I don't know about you guys. And it seems that the gaffer doesn't trust Silva, and there's nobody else that seems to be coming through. So feels to me like we need some more striking options. I mean, like I say, our first 11 looks all right, but a couple of injuries and looks a little bit threadbare, you know?
Yeah, mate, I think that's the thing. We're obviously a few injuries away from, and I think we saw that against Everton with that side we put out, which is essentially our second team. And they struggled massively against Everton. If we come up against them in the league with a few of them on, and I think this is the thing I said in my post-match reaction was, it's all right looking at it and saying it's a different side, but say, for example, Mazuaka gets injured and then you've got to play Anderson, and all of a sudden he's not turning up. It's like, then what do you do? We haven't strengthened. And I do think it's a good signing, Cooper, as well. I don't know, I haven't seen too much of him, but he does look like a good fit for.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, you know, you just touched on it. Our left side, I worry about. If we were to lose Masuaku, it doesn't really leave us a lot. You can't trust Anderson really to track back and look after Cresswell, where you know where he can look a little bit vulnerable at times. So I think obviously losing Diangana was ridiculous, and that's left us exposed as well. But yeah, certainly centre back is the key for me at the moment, which seems to be what West Ham are focusing on actually.
Yeah, obviously we've got that Marseille defender. He come up last night. Apparently it's concrete, so and potentially we could try and get him for around, I think it's 25 to 35 mil. That would be all our transfer budget gone. I can't see David Moyes coming into this season buying a centre back, which I know he wants, and not maybe trying to address that forward position. Maybe bring someone in on loan. Yeah, I mean, Fordy, what are we saying, mate? What are we saying about who you'd like to bring in? Ooh. Oh, he's gone. Never mind. Didn't like the question. Rudi, mate, who should we bring in?
A bit like Geoff said, I definitely think centre back's the priority. We need cover at centre back. Having a right wing back come in is good, because I've not thought Fredericks was good enough for a long time, and also Ben Johnson. I think he could do a job there, but I'm not sure he's an out and out right wing back. So having him learn off someone else who's more attacking, it sounds like from what I've read on Kufal, he's quite an attacking, forward-minded player, and he's 28. He's already played in the Champions League this year, so he should be ready to go straight away. I think Alan Irvine said he could even play on Sunday, so that's just the right-back situation. So as far as I'm concerned on that, that's fine. I just think we need a centre-half so badly. I think the game against Everton showed us that if we ever switch to a back four again, we're in big trouble, because we were horrendous at the back. Even with Declan Rice, our best defender at the back, we were just all over the place. But I think, yeah, as we said, if Ogbonna goes down injured, we're really in a bad place. Diop seems to be quite out of form at the moment. He seems to be diving into tackles and missing things a lot at the moment, a bit out of position. But Ogbonna looked solid in the three, and really Cresswell, to be fair to him, I'm his biggest critic. He actually was covered quite well in a three and gives quite enough balance with his left foot on that left side. But I think a right-footed kind of centre back in the 3 would be the biggest thing that I'd go for. This Caleta Car looks like a good player from Marseille. I hate believing transfer rumours until they come true. I've learned over the years to not get my hopes up over anyone, and I try and not jinx it by watching a YouTube video until they sign. But then one did come up on Twitter, so I watched it, and he looks like a pretty complete ball-playing centre-half, good in the air, good on the floor, good in the tackle. So he looks like he could be a good option. I'm not sure why he would leave. Apparently, he's forcing a move to us. I'm not sure why he would leave Marseille and do that. They've got in the Champions League this year. They look like a good team under Villas-Boas. So I don't know why he would want to do that, but if he does, I'm all for it, because I wouldn't mind getting one back over them for nicking Payet off us. So I think that's the biggest priority. Also think, a left back. If Masuaku, he's fine in the left wing back position. He's a little bit hot and cold for me, but in the left wing back position, I'll take him all day. If we have to go to a back 4, or if he's injured, I just don't trust Cresswell in that position anymore. So I think we need potentially a young up and coming left wing back to come and learn off of Masuaku, if you can learn anything off of him, but like kind of to grow in that role and develop over the next couple of years and become a long-term left wing back. If there's a bargain to be got out there, a bit like maybe Brighton got with Lamptey, then I would like to see us go and do something. I can't think of one at the top of my head at the moment who's a left wing back who I would take that's played in a 5, but I definitely think that's a position that he's strengthening. And also, if the game against Everton taught us anything, we need a midfielder, because Snodgrass and Noble were just absolutely all over the place in that game. A combined age of 66 years old. Like, you can't be running the midfield of 2 players that are 66. They're both good footballers, there's no doubt about it, but I think apparently Geoff Cullen's not. Well, I read a rumour that he's off to Anderlecht, or he's not in the plan. I would like to see him given a go in that midfield as the kind of third choice behind Souček and Rice, but I definitely think we need another midfielder, bit of energy, quite a dynamic midfielder, someone that can play the kind of Souček or Rice role. They don't necessarily need to be a creative player, because we've got that with Fornals, we've got that with Lanzini, we've got that with Bowen and Antonio. So I think, a kind of solid central midfielder wouldn't be a bad option. If we can maybe do a loan there. I've always liked the look of Billing at Bournemouth. I always thought he was a good player, and he's a Moyes type player. I don't know if there's an opportunity to go and get him on loan. And also within Bournemouth as well, Josh King. I don't know why anyone hasn't snapped Josh King up yet. He's a proven goal scorer in the Premier League. He's a bit like an Ollie Watkins in the sense that he's played up front in the 2. He runs the channels really well. I feel like he could be a great option to play with Antonio or Haller. So I'm not sure why someone hasn't gone in and snapped him up yet. Do a loan option with an option to buy at the end of the year. That gets him off the wage bill for Bournemouth and gets him Premier League experience, which surely he wants. So he's an option that I definitely would go for as well.
Mate, Josh King is a no-brainer. I think I saw something on Twitter saying he was available for around £10 million yesterday. I mean, for that, he's a proven goal scorer. Like you say, he is that Ollie Watkins mould, and his finishing's quality. And I think, like Antonio, as good as he is up front, obviously he runs the channels, he's physical, he adds a lot to the side. We don't have that. If we're not going to play Allaire, we do need that clinical striker up front, and Josh King would be perfect. I think I asked X a question on this podcast. I think it was, will we keep the same system? And I think that's going to dictate a lot of our transfer activity, because this is obviously new to all of us. We've only seen it twice now. If we maintain it, then maybe we need to look at that left wing back position and say who's going to come in if Arthur's injured. Because I just think for West Ham particularly, I think Cresswell is poor in that left back, and I think he's still a little bit of a weakness at centre back. I just think because he's got players covering for him, it's a bit easier. But we got to be wary of that, and it all comes down to squad depth. We need to massively improve. I think we'll get a few loans in. We've even gone for, I think it was Vanaken or someone from the Belgium league, and I think he's a 6'4" midfielder. Again, energy. I think, and I know people just say it's the cup competitions against Charlton and Hull, but actually there was energy in that midfield with Cullen, and it makes such a big difference to the whole side. So definitely need some of that, particularly if Cullen leaves. Fordy, mate, what are we saying? Who would you like to see brought in and in what positions?
I think, obviously, at the end of the day, it showed that with Rice in defence, our midfield is seriously lacking. So if he picks up a knock, then I just don't know if Souček's going to be able to cope there by himself. So I actually thought someone like Guendouzi from Arsenal would be decent, because obviously he's not wanted there at the moment. I think rumours of Marseille looking at him, does a job, turns defence into attack.
think he's struggling here. But definitely Guendouzi does turn defence into attack. That's not a bad shout, actually. While we're waiting for Fordy to get back, Bill, what would you say? Guendouzi, would you have him in, maybe on a loan?
Yeah, I'd take him, mate. Yeah, he's very, still very raw, but he's played a lot of games with such a young player. Pass the ball quickly, and he's decent in the tackle as well. So I'd certainly have him. And I think what the chaps have said earlier about central midfield, that Everton game has highlighted how short we are in quality, but also numbers as well. I mean, you take Rice and Souček out of that midfield, we haven't got a huge amount there. Obviously Noble and Snodgrass, then they're advancing in their years, they're past their peak now, and obviously Cullen's still not proven at this level, and Connor Coventry is very raw. So I think we need someone in the centre of the park, a centre back as well. I think especially if we're going to play 3 centre halves every game, we need someone anyway, even if someone just to cover, really. I mean, I would have taken Shane Duffy, but obviously he's not available now. So someone like that who's got that little bit of experience. I think Geoff said Rudi. I think that's a great shout. I don't think he's good enough for Chelsea in terms of qualifying for the Champions League, but he's more than good enough to play for us, I think. So if we could get him on loan, I'd certainly have him. And yeah, left back, that's still a problem. Obviously Cresswell left back, none of us I don't think really fancy. And if Masuaku picks up an injury or loss of form, I don't see who can play that. I think Ben Johnson's really a wing back. So that possibly might be somewhere to look at. And if you've only got Antonio and Hilaire as the striking options, I think we're short in that area as well. But those options we've all talked about, that's been the same since the start of the transfer window, and even in centre midfield ever since we sold like Obiang, Fernandes. We haven't really replaced them apart from getting Souček, and that we could have done with those kind of players now, I think. So that's still somewhere we need to look at as well.
Yeah, do you know what's slightly concerning though? I think I've seen the rumour mill with Craig Dawson coming around. I mean, Fordy, we'll get back to you, mate, because you did make a good point about Guendouzi. But I mean, what are we saying about Craig Dawson potentially coming into West Ham?
Well, I mean, sorry, do you want to read that one?
So is that addressed to you, mate?
Oh, it's 40, but then sort of opened it up a bit.
Yeah, my mate's actually a Watford fan, to be honest, and he said that he's okay, but he wouldn't be bothered if he left. Put it that way. I know he's good at set pieces, a bit of an old-fashioned centre back, but I think it's not really progression, to be honest. Getting someone like him, I'd rather have Balbuena, to be honest. Yeah. I mean, I think that's the only argument, isn't it? When you bring Dawson in, obviously he's good from set pieces, and it is like a massive part of our play. But I do think as a club like West Ham shouldn't be aiming for a centre back that's been relegated twice in a struggling side. Maybe he'll do better in the back three. I don't know. I'm kind of hoping we do get this Marseille defender in, because he does look the real deal. The price seems all right as well. Fingers crossed Sullivan doesn't start negotiating over the add-ons too quick. Let's have a look at some of the comments. Pulling up what Rudi said about Josh King as a shout. Yeah, it is, mate, to be fair. Like, I completely slipped my mind, but I remember seeing something in that on the transfer window rumour mill saying he could come in. Again, he's at Bournemouth. Bournemouth have sold a number of their players now. They're looking to recoup quite a bit, actually. So, and I don't think he's played too many games for them down in the Championship. So, great shout, mate. Even if it was a loan, to be fair. Yeah, it's just having a look. Yeah, interesting. Dennis brought this up as well. Edmilson Fernandes, we sold him. I think he would have been I think we never really saw a lot of him at West Ham. Would have been a good bit of squad depth to have had. So, gutted on that front. Right, let's move on to the pertinent question of the window, the thing that's been dragging on for ages now. It's sort of up and down. I thought Chelsea would come in for a bid, but they haven't so far. Can West Ham keep hold of Declan Rice? I'm going to go to Rudi for this one.
I think the stadium might be in flames if he goes by the end of this transfer window. I think that I'm one of the people that I quite like I don't know, the Ajax model of players, where you breed young players into the team, you create good players that can sell on for a massive profit and then reinvest it into the team. That is, for a team of our kind of stature, our kind of level of mid-table Premier League team, that is the kind of goal. That's what you want to do. You want to be producing players that can go on, sell for a lot of money, and then bring some exciting players in. The problem we have with Declan Rice is I would have no problem doing that any other transfer window, but this one, no, because we've got no chance. I don't have any faith in Sullivan to bring in players for that money this close to the end of the window. We're going to go down if that's the case. I think if Declan Rice goes, I think we go down, because I think he's so integral in our midfield. I think he's so integral in the dressing room just as a player, the connection between the fans and the owners and the club, which is just shrinking every second. He is the kind of catalyst between all of that. And if he goes, I think we're in mentally, I think the team's in a bad place. In terms of personnel on the pitch, we've lost our best player. I think if he goes this window, we're in massive trouble. I think any other next summer, I would absolutely have no problem selling him for 60, 70, 80 million. I would happily shake his hand and say, go back to your boyhood club, go play, go be a legend there. Give us the money to reinvest in the squad. But this transfer window, with what's happened with Ian Garner, with the fact that we're so late on in the window, where we've struggled to negotiate anything with a centre-back at the moment and a central midfielder, I just don't trust David Sullivan to do anything with the money. I don't trust David Moyes to make a decision quick enough to find someone to replace him. I don't think Declan Rice should be sold when we have a person that's a target that's going to come in straight away and be bought even potentially before he's sold. That's the kind of operation we should do with Declan Rice. We know he's going to go. He's going to go this year or next year. We know it. He's too good. There's no way we're going to keep hold of him. I don't mind getting rid of him. But this window, I just don't think we can. We have to do everything to hold on to him, because it's too volatile, the situation at the moment.
Yeah, I completely agree, mate. As well, now it's so late in the window that if they did sell him, I mean, I don't personally think you can bring in someone for the price you get for Declan Rice and replace him that would want to come to West Ham anyway. But now you've got a few days left. It'd literally be a money grab. They couldn't dress it up any other way. It'd be like, well, we'll take 60, 65 mil, undercut what I think he's worth, which is at least from 70 to 80. And then keep the money. And I think there is a huge criticism of them, because obviously Sullivan come out and talk sport and said, we've got Grady money, we've got around £40 million transfer budget. All of a sudden, if you sell Declan, we know, and they know, that we know that they've got £100 million they're just sitting on. And so it's like, well, and then there's pressure on them to bring it. To be fair, as a fan, at this late stage, I mean, forget it's just West Ham, because we haven't got scouting network and infrastructure. Yeah, but even for a club to have that amount of money to reinvest in a short period of time, it's virtually impossible to get deals over the line. So I'm hoping that the only reason we're at where we're at is because they're not going to sell him, because it just doesn't make football sense. It doesn't make business sense. There's no point in doing it.
Completely agree.
Yeah, I mean, Bill, what are we saying, mate? I mean, can West Ham keep hold of Declan Rice? And what I would ask as well is, if he does go to Chelsea and they start offering 55, are there any Chelsea players you'd like to see come the other way?
Well, yeah, I think we can keep hold of him. There's only a couple of days left till the window shuts. It's Monday it shuts, isn't it? So, yeah, and just because they put an offer in doesn't mean we have to accept it. I mean, look, money's not great with us apparently at the moment, but I don't think we're under major pressure to sell him. Although I don't think any of us really sort of agree with what David Sullivan or believe what he's saying. So, yeah, I think unless it's like a crazy, like ridiculous offer, then I think he'll stay. Yeah, would we actually spend the money that we get anyway? Say if we do get 80 million, would we spend that? I don't think we would. And we wouldn't be able to replace him this window because it's too late. So hopefully the stance of we're not going to sell him actually does ring true. And in terms of players from Chelsea, well, I mean, I think if anything, because of the money they spend, they probably need to get players off the books anyway. So I think it depends on the players they get rid of. They're talking of, Rudiger, Loftus-Cheek. They've Barkley's on loan at Villa now. They're talking of Jorginho, Kante might leave as well. So I think it depends on whether they can loan or sell those players to raise the funds. Then possibly they might put an offer in, but. Until that happens, I don't think they will put an offer in. And in terms of players from from Chelsea midfield. I mean, I'd happily take Kante. That ain't going to happen. Jorginho, again, I'd take him. That ain't going to happen. Loftus-Cheek, I'd take 100%. But, you know, he's got injury problems at Chelsea, and at West Ham, we're not exactly known for our amazing injury record, are we? So he'd be injured all the time with us. So, yeah, there's certainly players I'd take from, you know, Tammy Abraham I'd take as well. But, you know, whether they'd include that as part of the deal, I don't know. But I think he's so vital, as the chaps, as Rudi has said, vital in the change room. He's, you know, as our best player. I think, yeah, it'd be crazy for us to sell him now. Maybe next summer when we've got more time to build and, you know, get more transfer targets than possibly next summer. But to do it now would be absolutely crazy.
Yeah, the only one I was a bit on the fence that I thought I'd like from Chelsea is Ross Barkley. I know he went to Villa. I think I've heard the rumour that it was around like an £11 million loan deal, which is quite extortionate to have a player for one season. So I can only imagine they're trying to sell him on. Ruben Loftus-Cheek is a player I really, really rate. I thought a couple of seasons ago at Palace when he had a few games, he looked unreal. But again, it's that injury record that we can't afford to have. I think Geoff's touched on it as well. Rudiger, if we could get Rudiger in even on a loan at this stage, worst comes to worst, I'd take him. Also have to look at Tomori as well. I think his deal to Everton's broken down now. I think they brought in Ben Godfrey. So again, he would be something that would add to our defence a little bit. I mean, but like you say, he's irreplaceable. I mean, the stats on him are crazy last season. I think most appearances, most blocks, most intercept, like everything goes through Declan Rice. And it's like, you take that guy out of the team, you're taking out the defensive capabilities. Now he's adding an ability to drive in midfield, which we've seen from him. You're losing that transition as well. So irreplaceable for me. Geoff, I mean, you've kind of touched on it, mate, you know, with the Chelsea swap in terms of Rudiger. I mean, would you sell Declan Rice for anything this window?
Well, I think it's blatantly obvious, even to David Sullivan, that if we take Dec out of the team, we're exposed and massive relegation fodder. So surely we can see it, he can see it, everyone can see it. So I do think we'll be keeping him this window. I do worry if real dollar came in for him. You know, that sort of, I think someone touched on like a 70 million sort of number. You know what Sullivan's like, his eyes might light up and he might think, oh, I'll have some of that. I can't see us letting go for a lowball offer, and I just can't see that big money coming in this late in the window. I think that they'd have been building up to for the last couple of weeks with negotiations and offers, if that was what was coming. I feel like as an organisation, they probably need to start looking at ways to try and lock Rice down. I mean, I don't know the ins and outs, but I hear he's earning like 30 grand a week or something like that. You know, he's playing every minute of every game. He's captaining the side a lot of the games, and you've got guys like Yarmolenko on 6 figures a week. So surely there's got to come a point where we open contract negotiations with him, and at least get him on a contract that reflects his importance to us, and that might help us as well in the future. Keeping up with him long term, and obviously there's got to be a view to getting the captaincy armband to him permanently. Because let's be fair, we're a better side when he's leading us. I think the players feed off his energy, so we've got to start looking at how we can lock him down long term.
Yeah, that's the thing that. Sorry, mate, go for it.
I was just saying that's kind of, I feel like what Villa have just done with Grealish, because Jack Grealish is technically too good to play for Aston Villa, but they've just put him on a long-term contract as captain of the highest earner. Within a couple of seasons, that just puts them in a stronger position to sell him. If maybe he will be a boyhood club player and will stay there for whatever. He's kind of 24, 25 now. But you think if he does want to go in 2 years at 27, they're in the best position possible to sell him, because he's on they're paying him what he needs to do. So give their all for the next couple of seasons, and then they've probably got a clause in the contract that means he can go if the bid comes in for X amount. So if we get him down on a contract, at least it gives us a strong position to sell him in a couple of years or a year or whatever.
Yeah, no, it's common sense, mate. Like, that's what the club should be doing. I think before he got his 30 grand contract, he was on about 3 grand a week, and he was playing every single week at West Ham. And we were crying. I remember crying out for it, saying, just give him a contract, mate, because he's clearly one of our better players. Same situation here, you know. And I think they're really reluctant to give him the contract he deserves. If I'm Sullivan, I'm giving him at least 100,000 a week with a captain's armband. And I think that's the type of incentive you need.
seems so obvious.
Oh,
Just
it's always too obvious for West Ham to make the right decision. Unfortunately, that's just how it works. But
you need to do it for this season. Give him the captain's armband for this season. So you're the club captain. It's not Noble anymore. You're leading us forward. You're the top earning player. Well, we believe in you.
Yeah, we're building a team around you. We're building the side around you.
Wouldn't it be nice, maybe for Noble at this stage of his career, perhaps to make the gesture and sort of pass the baton?
Yeah.
I mean, I know it's a bit left field. That's not something that often happens, but at this stage, I think Noble owes us nothing. I think he's left it all on the pitch for us, and he's a legend. And he could play a big part in locking Rice down long term by making that gesture. I feel.
I agree.
Yeah, completely, mate. And I think that's the frustrating thing, particularly with his owners. Obviously, I won't get too much into it because it's a completely different conversation. But there's no long-term strategy around it. Do you know what I mean? Like Rudi was saying with Jack Grealish, all right, they know he's going to go. It's just let's get the most amount of money for him. And now they've brought in Barkley around him, Watkins around him. They've got a nice little side now, and it's frustrating for us to see that almost them owners have got that eye on 2023, and they're like, oh, we'll just wait and we'll just wait and we'll just wait because they know that sale's going to come, which is massively frustrating. Let's have a look at some of the comments. Barry Beard says, the damage is done by the player and the board. It's not right to hold back a class player. Yeah, I mean, there's going to come that point, isn't there, where we're going to have to let him go. I mean, I don't think any West Ham fan would resent him going to Chelsea in the end. I think he's a top draw player. Mark says, he was on a show last week, I'll take Billy Gilmore from Chelsea. He's a massively class player. I can't see Fat Frank letting him go, unfortunately. I think we're only spending, and this is an interesting point as well from him. I think we're only spending the 18 mil we got from Grady. What I will say is, obviously, we brought Kufal in, which they're going to add as part of their spin, but ultimately, it's probably taken the Ajeti fee and put it on him. So, I mean, we haven't actually really spent anything at all apart from the Souček money. So, yeah, crazy with West Ham at the moment. It's frustrating.
It's absolutely bugged me that I, like many fans, didn't want to sell Grady Diangana like that. There was just absolutely no logic in saying Grady Diangana at all. Everyone was so excited about watching him this year. It's not often you get a young homegrown player come through the academy since a young age, loves playing for the club, wants to play, and is exciting on the ball as he is. We were all so buzzing to watch him this year. But then, okay, we've sold him. The only way we would accept selling him is if we spend every single penny of the transfer fee we've got for him. So we've not spent anywhere near the money we've got for him. So at least the minimum I expect from our owners this window is that we at least spend the money we got from Grady Diangana on defenders. That is surely the minimum they have to do. Otherwise, there's no justification in even selling him.
Isn't it sad that that's my expectation? It's such a shame that it's come to that, but we sort of accept how it is, and it's not.
Yeah, I feel like this whole transfer window, we've just accepted. I've looked at Villa going and signing players. I've looked at other clubs like Everton going and signing players, even Newcastle. And I've just kind of sat there and accepted, like, oh, that's not going to be us this window. But then I'm like, well, why did we even sell Diangana then? I kind of would have been, I feel like I'm even edging towards the fact that I would have been okay with the squad if we kept Diangana as well. Like, selling him was senseless unless you're going to spend every penny of it, which they've got 2 days to do it. Otherwise, like, it's just absolute incompetence from the board yet again.
Well, no, and that's the frustrating thing, because I remember just before we sold him, I believe we were linked with Tarkowski, and we obviously come out, we bid 27 million. So I think it kind of tied us along, thinking, all right, okay, we got rid of him. At least we can bring in Tarkowski. The Ben Rama thing as well, I thought was quite laughable at the time. They were saying, oh, we'll bring in Ben Rama to replace him. Didn't happen. And I think he's going to Palace now. So again, it's that incompetence. I mean, it remains to be seen. But I mean, you don't sell one of your best young players without a plan to replace them, surely.
That's exactly right. They should have, as you said, if we'd have bought Tarkowski and a day later, like, you'd have been like, I would have held my hands up and been like, okay, fair enough. You sold Diangana. You thought we had too many wingers, and you've gone and bought in a top-class Premier League centre-back straight away. Fair enough. But they've got 2 days to pull like some magic out of the bag and sign a centre-back or a full-back for some money. Otherwise,
let's not forget we've also sold him to a rival, and I don't want to say it, but possibly a relegation rival. Even more so now that Diangana's gone to him. So it's not even like he's gone off for big money to a top 4 side, and we wish him. We've sideways moved him out to damage us later in the season. It's baffling, really.
I feel sorry for him as well, because he spent his whole life growing up at West Ham, but by all accounts he wanted to stay. We've shipped him off to West Brom for money, and they're more likely somehow to go down than us this year. So he's going to be back in the Championship in a year's time. Like, I feel sorry for the lad.
Yeah, and the thing is as well, I was quite shocked actually, because I've seen not all West Ham fans, but some West Ham fans don't rate him as highly as maybe I do. But I can't understand that, because against he's got physically a lot stronger against Everton as well. When he ran the length of the pitch and put it in with his left foot, I was like, mate, that's a serious player. And the frustrating thing now, every time you watch Sky Sports or BT, all these pundits are going, why did West Ham let him go? I'm like, well, exactly, mate. I ain't got a clue.
Last year, I spent every time West Brom I was able to watch West Brom on TV last year, I'd watch them. So I was like, I'm going to get so excited about Diangana. And now if West Brom are on telly and he's playing this year, I can't watch him just because I'm like, I can't watch and see what we've missed out on there.
Oh, nice. It's frustrating, mate. Right, let's talk about the players that potentially, I don't think we'll get shifted on, but let's just talk in terms of if we could shift them on, get something back, would we? So I've kind of pinpointed these three. I mean, I don't know where to start. I mean, Felipe Anderson on Wednesday, for me, absolutely appalling. I mean, with the Felipe we got when he come in, 18, 19, took on players. I remember him against Arsenal where he was putting his gloves on while he was running with the ball. He's not the same player at all. Every time he sees a player in front of him, he just moves back and passes it to Criswell.
Yeah, well, yeah, Wednesday night just showed that, he can do it against Hull and Charlton, but I don't think he can do it in the Premier League anymore. He's completely an absolute shadow of the player he was. And as you said, that season under Pellegrini, I think he scored 9 league goals. I think, he was fantastic for us. And, we would have got good money for him if we sold him that season. But now we're obviously struggling to get any money for him. And I don't think there's been many offers by the sounds of it. So, there's no point really playing him. I can see why Moisey don't want to play him, because that performance on Wednesday was atrocious. If he's not contributing in any way, then we must just, I think, cut our losses and try and get rid of him. But easier said than done with his high wages and so on. Even if someone takes him on loan, I think I'd certainly consider that and frees up a little bit of wages for us to hopefully maybe get a loan signing of our own potentially. And you could say potentially the same with Manuel Lanzini as well. I mean, since that injury, again, he just hasn't been the same player, and it's such a shame. He was linked with Liverpool when Coutinho was leaving the club, and you could see he would have fitted in pretty well there. But now he can't even get in our side, let alone Liverpool. So it's just just a shame about him. Again, he's not really contributing. I think physically, and I think maybe mentally as well. That might have sort of scarred him a little bit, the injury and stuff. So, again, try and get money for him, but I can't see many teams going for him. So, maybe try and loan him out through some wages. And Jack Wilshere, again, such a shame with his injuries. He'd walk into our side if he was fully fit. Actually saying that if he was fully fit, he wouldn't have left Arsenal. He'd probably be Arsenal's captain by now. So, and the talk of trying to pay him off, and I think that's a sensible decision, because he's not going to have a run of games, and he never will, for no matter what club he plays for.
Yeah, we obviously touched on Diangana thing, but he's the perfect man to play on that left-hand side. And I know apparently we've got 8 wingers, but I haven't really seen too much from him. I mean, we are shoehorning in 4 now at the moment on that left-hand side. I've even had the argument that maybe you play Anderson in the left of the front 3, but after Wednesday, I just can't see it. I'm not sure the bloke's head's right. I feel from a bit because the talent is there, but something mentally isn't right. And I think you've got Lanzini, who has actually had an injury. Looks like he's trying to do what he used to do, but he just can't do it anymore. And the 2 players at the moment who were 2 of our best players, our best attacking players, are now really struggling. And the Wilshere thing, mate, I mean, he's on massive wages. I think it was a little bit of a silly deal, if I'm honest. I was quite excited at the time just because of the name. And I thought we'd played a couple of games for Bournemouth and maybe he sort of turned the corner. But there's no doubt, mate. I mean, technically, he would be one of our best centre midfielders, but injuries have just done it.
Yeah, and apart from that, I wouldn't really sell many players because we've got a thin squad as it is. So unless we get silly off for some of our players, I'd keep the squad. We need to add more than anything, as we've talked about. So apart from those 3, keep the squad and then try and invest in getting a couple of players in, or maybe a couple of loans.
It's going to be that way, mate, I reckon. Rudi, what are we saying, mate? Are you sort of, let's get Felipe out at any cost, or do you just keep him around for squad depth?
I've been like the whole window. I've been like he had one very, very good season, one very bad season last year. He had injuries and things last year. He's definitely a confidence player. He's one of the biggest confidence players I think I've ever seen us have. Because I remember the first season he came, I remember loads of people on Twitter were always doing their Premier League team of the season outside the top 6. He was in every single person's. He was absolutely brilliant. We were purring over him. And I can't believe watching him Wednesday night go from the player he was to what I saw Wednesday night. He just is so, as you said, he's so nervous on the ball. He goes back to Cresswell all the time. He used to have that kind of Payet effect for me, that when he got the ball, I thought, oh, something's going to happen here. And he's just completely lost it. So he's one that right now I wouldn't get rid of him, because I think our squad's too thin, and he probably, with some confidence, could get some form and maybe play in that kind of 3 up front role. He could potentially have a go there. Even maybe, dare I say, as a right wing back. He did play a few games there for Lazio as a right wing back, and he's obviously got the recovery pace. Maybe that would be, but if he's kind of shy going forward, at least he's got the recovery pace off the ball to kind of get back in that position and move the ball forward. I don't know. That's maybe where I could see him fitting in. I wouldn't sell him at the moment just because I think our squad's too thin. Unless there was an obvious person who could come in and replace him, maybe like a Ismail Assar from Watford. If we could get him on loan for the year with an option to buy or something, then I would happily get rid of Felipe Anderson. Just I don't think it's going to work for him at West Ham anymore. I think there's too much pressure on him and he's not been able to handle it. Right now, though, unless we are going to get a direct replacement, I wouldn't get rid of him because there's not enough room in the squad. Wilshere, I was so excited when we signed Jack Wilshere because he's such a lovely footballer, but it's just not going to work out for him, is it, with the injuries? And Moyes doesn't fancy him as his type of player. So I think, the best for all parties is if we get him off the wage bill sooner rather than later. I think Lanzini's shown signs. He's shown signs of at least being able to link the play between kind of the midfields and the forwards, which could do a job coming off the bench and unlocking maybe a couple of passes. I think I'd persevere with him just purely because there's no one else at the moment that we're potentially looking at. I don't know why someone hasn't gone for David Brooks from Bournemouth as well. He was always been a very good player, injury prone, but when on his day, he's a very good player. So Anderson I would get rid of if we could get in Assar. Lanzini I would get rid of if we were going to get a replacement in Brooks, but at this moment in time, I wouldn't get rid of either of those two just because I think our squad's too thin.
Ismail Assar is a massive shout as well, to be fair. Like, when I saw him last season, he's raw, but he's phenomenal in terms of running with the ball, and he'll add it to his game, and I can't see him staying at Watford. I mean, at all. I think you're right with Manu. He isn't the same since his injury, but I do think in the David Moyes side, when Moyes first come in, you see him link up the play nicely with Arnautovic, and he sort of played a bit further forward. In this system, he plays a little bit deeper. Sometimes he comes to pick the ball up. Physically, he's not going to affect the game from deep. But I think the more we push him up, if we're going to play him in a 10 role, he can affect things slightly more. And it's an issue. I think David Moyes is trying to get his squad. Obviously, a lot of these are Pellegrini signings. And he's kind of thinking, he needs players with work rate and big physical presences. And listen, if you bring this Carletta guy in from Marseille and a few others, it suits him. I mean, it's hard with Moyes because I'm not really a fan with the subs thing, waiting or not making any subs at all.
Bit of a time, mate.
I can't. We were the only team, I think, out of all in the Carabao Cup to not make a sub.
That was
unbelievable.
How can you lose a game 4-1 and not make a sub? Absolutely.
I would have made a sub at half time, mate. 100%. We should have brought Bowen on or pushed Rice into midfield.
Yeah.
That's crazy, man. It's annoying. Geoff, what are we saying, mate? Well, would you ship on Anderson and Lanzini, or do we just keep them because we can't bring anyone else in?
I mean, you guys have touched on it so much already that Anderson would probably be top of the list to move on. But given that we're so thin on the ground, I mean, like you said, we've got 8 wingers apparently. I don't know who they are, but at the moment we're trying to shoehorn Fornals into a left wing position where he just hasn't got the pace or the strength to play there. I mean, I like Fornals, so I like his work rate, and I see him in the 10. I don't think he's a winger at all. And aside from that, if we're going to persist with Antonio up top, there's not really anybody else to play as a left-sided attacking player. So for that reason and that reason alone, we're going to need to keep Anderson at least till the next transfer window. leads to a next transfer window, just for squad depth, because a couple of injuries and you're completely threadbare, aren't you? And then the other two, obviously the same two players in my mind as well, Wilshere and Lanzini. Wilshere, as good as he is, he's just not up to it, is he? He's got all the talent of a great player, but his body isn't there. So, I think perhaps he could benefit from a move, in this latter part of his career to maybe the MLS or the French league, somewhere where he can have a bit more time on the ball, perhaps not be getting crunched in tackles quite so much. That could really benefit him. And it's a similar story with Lanzini. I mean, I think Rudi said, potentially keeping him and he could change the game with a few key passes, maybe playing in the 10, possibly. Out of 3, he'd be the one for me as well that we could potentially persevere with. But I do feel, again, for him, that a move to a more lightweight sort of league, for want of a better phrase, would suit him, and it would do wonders for probably both their careers, for the latter stages of them anyway.
Yeah, no, I mean, you touched on it a little bit. I mean, let's talk about Fornals at this left wing position. I mean, even against Wolves, where we played brilliantly, and he did get 2 assists, and that's the frustrating thing with him. He does seem to chalk up a lot of assists, and I think it was January last year, he went on a run where he was getting assists and goals every other game. But I mean, we can't keep persisting with it's a square peg round hole situation. I mean, he's a number 10 for me. I don't know about you lot, but we need a natural left-sided winger, and I think Ben Rama would have fitted that bill. I know he comes in a bit and he likes to play central, but you can play him from the left.
Yeah, I think I feel all of us are a little bit frustrated by Fornals at times when he's playing. You think, what's he contributed? But then, like against Wolves, he'll provide 2 assists out of nowhere. And I think Moyes likes playing him because you know what you're going to get from him in a defensive fashion. He will track the runners and he will drop into position, whereas the others, with their confidence and how they're playing, you're not sure what you're going to get from them. So I think that's why Moyes wants to play him regardless of what position it is. So I think, I don't think he's mobile enough, quick enough, and got the agility to play as an out-and-out winger. But should he be in the side? Absolutely. And I think how our formation, I think that's the only place you can really play him at the moment. So I think in time, I think he should be in a number 10 role, because he's got that range of passing, with his assists and so on. So, I'd still persevere him for now. And I think it shows that, he's the only, we're playing him. It shows how out of form the other players are in that position.
Yeah, that's what struck me as well, because I thought, why don't you play Anderson on the left? Because wouldn't that suit his style? But clearly Moyes sees that his work rate just isn't there. And obviously Fornals, you could say what you want about Fornals' lack of pace in that position, but his work rate's phenomenal, and he is constantly pressing, which is important.
I think it's really clear that Moyes picks his sides based on work rate and application, and being defensively responsible. I mean, I know it's sort of a bit of a famous quote of his when he came in the first time about Arnautovic saying, if you don't work, you don't play, and all this sort of stuff. And that does true now in his first 11. He picks Antonio, who, yes, he's done a great job for us, but ultimately Hallow is the better striker, out and out striker. But he picks Antonio because of his work rate, and I think it's the same with Fornals. He'd rather have Fornals out there on the left, who maybe is not as quick but works so hard, than have Anderson not really putting a shift in or getting back and protecting Cresswell. So I think I do like that about Moyes, that he picks on work rate. But at the same time, it would be nice to have a bit more depth out on the left, so we could have some more options and not be playing a square peg in a round hole, as you said, Corey.
Yeah, nice, frustrating. It begs the question, why you sell Grady D and Garner? We need a left winger. West Ham. Right, listen, lads, thanks for coming on. Oh no, go on, Rudi, mate.
Right, just quickly on Fornals. I think before the Wolves game, I tweeted when the lineup came out saying, isn't there like a chance to play Antonio in that left wing position, play Haller up front and play Bowen? And then Fornals obviously goes and gets 2 assists typically. Like, well, but I do think in that 3 kind of 5-2 formation or 3-4-3 formation, he kind of, in that left wing position, is playing as like an inverted number 10. So I kind of do think he actually can get away with it a bit better than we think. He's really good at linking the play on the counter attack. If the ball comes into him, you can put your money on him playing the right pass through to Bowen, through to Antonio. So I do think he actually can get away with it in that position, especially with Masuaku coming and giving the width from the outside. He can kind of move inside and link the play quite well. So I do think he actually, in that team, I'd rather him there than anyone else at the moment. But based on the way Anderson played the other night, I can't see anyone else better than him in that position, unless you maybe drop Antonio into it and play Haller up top. But I think Fornals is such a good player. He's got to be in our team one way or another. He's such a clever player.
I totally agree.
Yep.
Yeah, and I think that's the same thing I've said in like 2 previews. Like, why don't we play Antonio on the left and Haller up front? Because obviously Haller is a quality striker, and he just doesn't seem to get enough time to show it. And I thought even against Everton, mate, like he didn't have many chances, but he was, he was affecting the game. He did have a couple of shots. It's annoying that we don't see enough of him.
It looks like he's going to score every time the ball comes in the box. His touching is so good that when the ball comes into him, I just think he's going to score. We've got to find a way of getting him in the team.
Yeah, and the thing is, mate, like Leicester as well, albeit they're a very good side, they're so poor from set pieces. And Haller is one of the best at winning headers. And he makes you think it's just like, come on, West Ham, you've got the game plan, it's there, just use it.
Yeah, 100%.
Right. Brilliant. Thanks for coming on, lads. Really appreciate it. Second episode of Writer's Block. Thank you all for tuning in. Make sure you like the video. Make sure you subscribe to the West Ham Way. We will be back next weekend. I might do a watch along as well for the Leicester game tomorrow. So until next time, take care.